The executive retreat finishes, the boardroom goes quiet, and a beautifully bound 5-year strategic plan slams shut on the table. The budget is locked, the targets are set, and the path forward feels certain. 6 months later, a global pandemic or a trade war hits. The ink on that strategy document is still fresh, defined by volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. In this world, the ability to predict the next 12 months with precision has effectively vanished. When the terrain shifts, companies often feel obligated to finish a project simply because it was approved in the annual budget. But when you continue pouring capital into a strategy that the market has already rejected, you are effectively choosing a path towards insolvency. The traditional waterfall method has executives hand down rigid decisions that cascade downward, with no mechanism for warnings when the plan shatters against reality. To survive, businesses adopt the scientific method, building a continuous loop of testing, measuring, and adjusting based on immediate feedback. This requires viewing your strategy as a hypothesis. It is your best guess based on today's data, treated as a proposition to be tested rather than a sacred text to be followed. This shift removes executive ego from the boardroom. It grants the organization permission to run small experiments, learn from the results, and change direction before burning through the company's financial reserves. Take the case of Siam EcoPack, a manufacturing SME. At the start of the year, their board became convinced that new environmental laws would force all local fast food chains to adopt premium bio-coated paper boxes. Under a traditional plan, the response is massive. You take your entire 20 million baht budget and wire it overseas to import heavy German machinery, betting the company's future on a single unproven assumption. But using an agile approach, the CEO pauses that 20 million baht purchase. Before committing to the factory equipment, they decide to verify if the demand actually exists. They run a 90-day sprint, spending just 1 million baht to outsource a tiny test batch of bioboxes. This creates a minimum viable product for the sales team to test in the real market. By limiting the initial outlay, Siam EcoPack has essentially purchased 3 months of real-world intelligence. They now have proof of what customers will actually pay for, rather than relying on boardroom guesswork. 90 days later, the executives sit down for their quarterly business review to look at the data from the field. The data revealed a harsh truth. While restaurants liked the green concept, their margins were too tight to handle a 30% markup. The hypothesis was wrong. The customers were sticking with cheap plastic. Because the machinery was never ordered, 19 million baht remains in the bank. They can instantly kill the failing project and move that capital elsewhere without catastrophic loss. During that same 90-day sprint, the team discovered a massive unserved spike in demand for corrugated e-commerce packaging. They immediately redirected the saved funds to buy equipment for a market they had already verified. Agile strategy is about keeping your resources mobile. It allows you to keep your powder dry until you uncover where the true opportunity lies. It is important to distinguish agility from chaos. Agile requires a stable ultimate vision, a North Star. The only things that shift are the short-term tactics and initiatives used to reach it. You can audit your own organization with a few questions. First, if a quarterly experiment fails to prove a hypothesis, is the team punished? If failure is met with a reprimand, your team will never take the risks agility requires. Second, is your funding flexible? If a manager discovers a new market in July, but has to wait until next year's budget cycle to act on it, your agility is frozen by your own accounting. Finally, how do you decide to pivot? If shifts in strategy are based on hard data, like click rates and sales figures, you are running a business. If they are based on the CEO's gut feeling, you are just gambling. Without flexible funding and the psychological safety to run honest tests, agile is just a buzzword used to describe a lack of discipline. Charles Darwin noted a principle in biology that is now the defining rule of corporate survival. It is not the strongest species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. In a market defined by volatility, treating your business strategy as a disposable hypothesis gives you a massive advantage over competitors still clutching their 5-year plans. But reacting quickly to a storm is only the first step. True mastery is the ability to read the atmosphere and anticipate the storm before the clouds even form. So how do you build a radar to map out uncertainty before it hits your bottom line? Next time, we'll look at the high-level art of